Welcome to the Going Somewhere podcast, a podcast for anyone who finds themselves in the ambiguous adventure of young adulthood, a season marked by uncertainty, change, love, heartbreak, and a whole lot of big decisions. Sit down with me for some real and raw conversations with some incredible people as we dig into what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus in this beautiful yet complicated season of life. If this podcast helps you in any way, please subscribe, leave a review, share with friends, and join the conversation on Instagram by following goingsomewhere.podcast. We're all going somewhere. We might as well go there together. Let's dive into today's episode. Everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. Today, I am joined by Daniel Eccles. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, man, it's good to flip the script here. It was great having you on my podcast. Happy to get to talk to you and catch up a little bit. So it was pretty fun.
Absolutely. Yes. Daniel is the host of the Opportunity Collective, which is a podcast and a community. And I got to be on that several months ago. And so it was only right that we made this work out, the big exchange. But no, I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited for you to dive into just kind of like, what's your passion, what's your heart set, but also, before we do that, I would just love to get to know you, let our audience get to know you. Who is Daniel Eccles?
So I live over here in Indianapolis, just north of Indy, as we call it. I'm a groups pastor at Traders Point here in Carmel, on that campus specifically. But on the side also, I do certified career counseling as well. Something that I just love to do. Either way, I just like to see people thrive instead of getting by. So anything that I do is usually kind of around that in particular. But yeah, I live here. My wife, my daughter, who's like all of a sudden 1.5, and it's crazy. She's now a little girl. So it's crazy how fast that goes. And it's just every week seems pretty fun. Every week seems fun.
Fun and full, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You don't sound bored.
I'm not bored. No.
When you have a 1.5-year-old, I think that is eliminated from that mix. But no, what's that journey been like? Obviously, you're at the beginning stages. I mean, you're a vet now, but beginning stages of parenthood and all that. So what's it been like being a dad? What are you learning from that journey?
Oh man, that wasn't on the question list. So
I told you we're free flowing. We're free flowing over here on Going Somewhere.
Well, yeah, it's both kind of what's been expected, but then also unexpected too. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the best thing that could happen. I don't know how to explain it. I guess you kind of have to do it in order to know.
You heard it here first. Do it so you know. Yeah.
Do it to know. Well, and that's the thing too. A lot of people would be like, I don't know if I'm ready to have kids yet. Well, I don't think that you'll ever really be ready for it. People can tell you how exhausting it is and how joyful it is. And both are so true in more ways than you can maybe imagine. It's just one of those formational things that you just kind of have to jump in and do it and pray a lot.
Yeah, that's the key right there. Prayer life just skyrockets. But you are in a discipleship groups pastor role, at your church, and that's obviously also kind of my world too. And that's a little bit of a newer job for you. But how's that been going? Like, what kind of drew you into that, and how did that door kind of open for you?
Well, I was wanting to get back into ministry, so I was doing youth ministry for a little while out in Oregon during grad school while I was doing my clinical mental health counseling grad school.
Okay.
Out there. And the goal has always been to use that skill set in ministry in particular, but then moved back to Indiana in a little time about like March 2020. So things didn't go as expected during that time.
The perfect time for life transitions. Yes.
Great life transition time. So, it just kind of for 3.5 years, didn't work in ministry directly. Did some private practice counseling, had a odd venture into software for a year that I look back and I wasn't very good at that. So if my if my old boss ever listens to this, I admit I was not very good.
That's
So
funny. Yeah.
yeah, don't know how I ended up in that role because it just wasn't a great fit for my abilities. So um, yeah, just eventually just waited and waited and felt like at times like okay. I feel a call to ministry. I feel like I should be into this. Why hasn't it just naturally happened
Hmm.
yet? There have been some opportunities that didn't work out for one reason or another. And each one of those were really heartbreaking and very sad because I longed to be back into it. Um, but looking back, I was protected from a lot of things by not getting those positions. And I can't imagine a better fit than where I'm at currently. So it was well worth the wait and I enjoy going in to work every day. It's just a lot of fun. So
That's awesome. I know we could probably just do a whole side conversation on just what challenges are you facing because it's probably a lot of the same. But I
yeah,
know you're at a great church, Traders Point. Just have a few different friends that actually go there, and so it's kind of fun. Our paths crossed quite randomly, I think, if I remember
yeah,
right, and so just to have the amount of mutual connections is always fun. I'm blanking on, but there's a guy that's like a graphic designer that's also at your church. I think his last name's like McLaughlin or something like that. But
hmm,
he uh he and I he dated a girl that was in my hometown, and I was there, and I made a post about being in Indy, and I was actually going to be working in the kitchen of Traders Point with our food truck when I was still with
hmm,
AO1, and he
hmm,
worked in that building, and he came down and saw me in the kitchen. So it's just a small world, and I think that's kind of cool for you. Like your world kind of revolves obviously around ministry and what the Lord is doing, but also something you've been building for a long time is what's called the Opportunity Collective. And a lot of that has to do with collaboration. And I just think
hmm.
the way that people kind of come in and out of our life is pretty special. But can you just tell us a little bit about what is the Opportunity Collective? How did you get started with it? And what does that look like today?
Yeah, well, it's kind of evolved. So the podcast started out as Learned Opportunity and was a little bit more on how do we discover opportunities in life and create them and things like that. But as time went on, I just kind of noticed that it was more of a community than it was a subject matter
Hmm.
opportunity. And the opportunity obviously comes a little bit more from connection and community and collaboration than it does from anything else. So, the Opportunity Collective, how I describe it to people, it's a network of faithful creators who are collaborating to create opportunities and live more purpose-filled lives. So it is both a community and then also a podcast. And on the podcast, we're focused on showing real-time collaboration. So I have a faithful creator of some variety
Yeah.
on the show, and we kind of go through the process of collaboration. The three things that we'll kind of go over is the bones of the podcast episode, and hopefully that creates some opportunities for listeners to contact these people that are all really willing to share resources, help out, and also are looking for people that might be able to fill some of their gaps as well. So that's kind of the goal for the podcast is to just kind of be a place for that community to occur,
Yeah.
to meet up, to collaborate and all that. So, but I think that the question I might get the most about that whole mission statement of a network of faithful creators is what is a faithful creator? Um, could I consider myself a faithful creator? And I think that there's a lot more creators out there than might recognize that. When I ask
Right.
somebody if they think that they're a creative, a lot of people would be like, "No, I'm not a creative." Because I don't draw, or I'm not a musician, or some of those things that you typically would think of when it comes to creative. But a faithful creator is just anyone that is living that original commission that we received in creation in Genesis, as Jordan Rayner would say, the original commission, not the Great Commission. So which is to rule and subdue the earth.
Right.
We were created and put here to create. We were created to create by a creator. And so you can be a faithful creator in real estate. You can be a faithful creator, working at Chick-fil-A. They're definitely faithful creators working at Chick-fil-A,
That's right. Just
for sure.
creating happiness.
Oh yeah, it's their pleasure. So more people can be faithful creators than they might think so. So, a listener, you might be a faithful creator as long as you are participating in that original commission of ruling and subduing and creating and stewarding the earth and the resources and the gifts God's been giving you. So,
That's cool. What were kind of like the precursors for you of just realizing like this is my world, like creating? And so was that something from a young age that you recognized that creator role and found outlets of that, or is that something that's been later in life for you?
I I always kind of would get this time where if I wasn't creating something, I would get really bored and have just this itch to want to put something new out there into the world, to invent something. So yeah, as a kid, I mean, was creating Lincoln Log villages and doing things. My favorite kind of games were Rizoo Tycoon or
Oh,
or
nice.
like those sort of
Roller
things,
coaster tycoon. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
which would always eventually, devolve into letting the T-Rexes out of the cages and barring the front entrance so that people couldn't escape. A little Jurassic Park simulator there for you,
Of
but
course. Yep.
so
As it should be. Yeah.
so that could go a different direction. That's a whole other episode, just into my inner psyche, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely always have seen some sort of creativity in my life, but I don't know if I would have claimed the creative title until maybe a little bit more recently, um, after looking into it a little more.
Cool. I mean, I think you kind of reference this, but like just thinking of the audience today that's listening, that I know there's some that are saying like, that ain't me, and because I think we do
Mm,
tie creativity and, to those mediums and to those outlets, and whether it's writing, speaking, music, or like paint, like I think
hmm
we can kind of tie that in. And you're talking like the original commission, the original call. And so what would your advice be to somebody that is saying like, I don't see myself as a creator. So like, where do I even start? Like, how do I even look at my job at Chick-fil-A, or look at my job at the bank, or, as an investment guy? Like, how do I see the creative in those things?
Yeah. Well, I would answer that we're all equipped and have something that we are adding to the environment. And in some of those non-traditional things, while you might not be creating something that's a tangible product, you are creating an environment or a result in whatever it is that you're doing. And that is part of our original commission, is for the good of one another and to God's glory, is why we do all of the work that we do, just to hopefully help humans live a more good life and create something that is glorifying to God because of the goodness and how it affects other people. That doesn't mean that it has to be art. Like I said, I mean, I've met a whole bunch of creatives that are in non-creative industries. Like a real estate agent, they're not building a house or doing anything, but they are creating home for people. Um,
Yeah.
and creating something really beautiful if they're doing their job in a great way. So you can be a creative, if anything, but just because you have that job title doesn't mean that you are necessarily living into being a faithful creator.
That's good. And I think that invitation of, I mean, in the church world, like we talk about Great Commission, we call ourselves a Great Commission church. Like we want to make disciples and baptize them and teach them. But this original commission of, stewardship and of creativity is for each and every one of us as well. And so I think just pointing people to that, I think that's like a really powerful biblical truth that some of us I mean, I think that's one of the biggest struggles young adults face, and
Mm,
is we come to the end of a college season or the end of high school, and we start to look at not just the next 5 years, because we obviously we do that, but we're also now, with high school it's 3 to 4 years, college it's 4 to 6 years nowadays. Like all of these things have kind of timestamps, and then you kind of get
mm,
past that, and now you're like, the next big checkpoint in my career is retirement. Like
yeah.
the next
Yeah.
massive transition. Of course, I might change jobs, but I need a job. Like all of those things. And I think so when you look at that 40 years, I think it's difficult, and a lot of people get lost in that wave of purposelessness, of
Mhm.
hopelessness, of like, just settling. Like, all right, I gotta pay the bills, I gotta keep the mortgage, I gotta keep the lights on, I gotta make sure my family's taken care of, and so my job is the way that I do that, instead of seeing whatever that work is as being that opportunity to glorify God, which I think is a little bit of what you're speaking to. And I think I noticed your shirt earlier, yeah, and just says competition, it's crossed
Oh,
out. And I
yeah.
know that
No
that's a big,
competition.
I love that. Like I think that's a big part of your message in your life is collaboration over competition, and collaboration being
Mm.
greater than competition. Can you speak to that a little bit of what that means to you?
Yeah, I was thinking about where I first originally started feeling that idea out, and it happened when I was out in Portland. So when you think of Portland and Oregon in particular, well, you might think a couple things really, but
Yeah.
one of the things you probably think of is coffee.
Yeah,
And I
for
got
sure.
to, I mean, as soon as you move into Oregon, they require you to get a job in the coffee industry. And so I worked at a coffee roaster, and I was the like coffee delivery driver and got to go all over Portland and down south towards Salem and through the Willamette Valley and deliver coffee beans all over the place to a bunch of different coffee businesses. And you would think that in like that sort of environment where coffee, like there's a coffee drive-through in every single parking lot. In my small town, that was like 20,000 people.
Okay.
In any parking lot, like the saturation of coffee places is crazy. So you would think there would be a lot of competition, but that coffee community really had more of a slogan in Portland of community over competition. And
Mm,
like, there's plenty of room for each of us because we're all adding something different
right.
as coffee roasters or coffee shops to the environment. And what does it hurt to have one more third space for somebody to go have a place to study and have community and drink a coffee beverage? Like, there's so much room for that. So that's where the idea really started out for me. And I think that it also kind of ties back into like the Genesis um, story in some ways too, in that in the original garden environment, like we were called to create, rule, and subdue, but it was in perfect community. There wasn't comparison
Mm,
between Adam and Eve. It wasn't until after the fall that Eve was supposed to was under the curse of, and you will long to rule over your husband, or
right.
like competition starts like kind of being introduced. And not competition's not all bad. Like there's healthy competition
Right.
um, where we are competing against ourselves and wanting to grow and get better and all that kind of stuff. But I think that creation and being a faithful creator is just way better stewarded when there's room for all of us to do the good works that we are gifted and talented and given these gifts by God to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm all about collaboration over competition. Um, After seeing that out in Oregon and then getting to experience it through the Opportunity Collective and just the willingness of people to work together, it's way more fun than me being like, oh, I follow Steven on Instagram. And I'm, comparing myself to him and his podcast, but I'm not
Right.
going to reach out. And there's just so much room for deceit and for untrue things to go through my head if I'm not collaborating with other people and if instead I'm trying to compete and compare myself to them. So,
What are some like the practical outlets for collaboration, whether it's in your life or even just people that you've seen, that you've helped, that you've walked through, that you've coached, that kind of come out on the other side of like, oh, okay, and now I see the good of it. Like, what are some of those practical expressions of that?
I think that the biggest thing is like your reach and like your network just increases way more when you're collaborating with other people instead of competing. If I write with somebody a opinion piece or bring somebody in to speak on a subject, and we co-author on my website, Substack, a blog post.
Yep.
Uh, we're both getting way better content because we're adding something unique from each of us. But then also, it won't just be my mom reading it. I also have their mom reading it too. So
Yes. Yeah.
two moms.
That's all. Yeah, that's all
That's
we need.
always better.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's cool. Yeah, I think for the person listening today, I mean, I think um that's maybe a hurdle that they have to get over, is maybe they don't see, just like maybe they don't see themselves in a creative role. But they don't also maybe don't see the opportunity to collaborate, and I think
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when it comes to writing, it's like, okay, yeah, I can write with somebody. I've gotten to write with my friends Josiah and Micah, who included me in one of their projects, and it was just fun to be able to do that with them and to do it with a community of people. And obviously collaboration, like you see it in songs and like feet, like you
Oh
you see all
yeah.
these in that world. But maybe the person listening today is like, okay, I'm an accountant, how do I
Mhm.
collaborate? And I think just challenging people to see in those worlds, like whether that's your friend who's also maybe reaching out to the same group of friends. I've got a bunch of friends, over the last 10 years that go into investing, and they work for a company, and they're trying to sell insurance policies, and they're trying to help you get your feet going with investing. And I feel like I've been asked 9 times by different friends that are going into that world, and they're all in the same pocket of people to an extent. And I have a friend who isn't afraid to reach out to those other ones, not to say like, hey,
Mhm.
get off my turf, but to be like, hey, what are some of the things that are working for you to connect with people? And hey, this guy didn't seem like a fit for me, but I
Mhm.
think he'd be a fit for you. Like, I think what you do, what you offer, might actually go a long ways. Because I think when we are generous, not just with our finances, but with our gift, with our voice, with our love, like that is
Mhm.
reciprocated, quickly. And when somebody recognizes you as a collaborator, not a competitor, in that spirit, like I think God uses that to amplify and to magnify and to multiply whatever it is that you're doing and whatever you're working on. But what are the
Mhm.
three
Mhm.
steps? This is
Yeah.
the bones here for you, but what are the three steps of collaboration?
hmm I think that will kind of get into that too. The hesitancy of some of you listeners comes kind of in this step two that I'll say.
Okay.
But these are the steps that we go over in the podcast. So when we're showcasing how to collaborate in real time on the Opportunity Collective, these are the three kind of questions that we're doing. So the first part of it is just asking people and listening to what they're passionate about. We kind of don't make a lot of space, and we all kind of have these passions that are living within us that we want to share with people, but we just don't know when and how to share. So it's kind of a relief as a creative person to like have somebody ask, like, "Hey, what are you excited about? What are you working
Mm,
on right now that you're just really pumped up about and would love to achieve? Oh, what are your dreams about that?" What would you love to have accomplished? And why that's important when it comes to collaboration and just to be able to listen to that, then you're able to understand the areas that you're aligned well with one another. You'll hear their dreams, you'll hear their aspirations, you'll see like, oh, I'm really passionate about that too. I just have this coming at it from a different way.
Right.
like, and you're able to kind of commiserate and understand one another. So you kind of have to start out with just a curiosity and listening stance right away, instead of being the one to just be going out there, hey, let me tell you about my podcast.
Right.
That won't get you very far. But if you go and ask somebody else about their things that they're passionate about, then that's going to open up opportunities for you then also probably share about what you're passionate about as well.
Very good.
And
Yeah.
gets you kind of going on the collaboration. The second piece to that is I always ask the podcast guests beforehand to come up with some ways of how they can help. Um, and so this can be the tricky part for people because I know a lot of people that are really talented, but they don't see it themselves. They don't see
Mhm.
what they have to offer themselves. They're like, well, I don't know. Like I just interviewed an IndyCar driver because it's about May here in Indianapolis, and that May is racing in Indy. In Indy, everyone gets their checkered flags out there into
Yep.
the lawns and everything. So it's a big deal. But he's just like, man, I don't know. Like what can I offer other faithful creators? But what he came up with was really, really good, and honestly, some opportunities for other people that are very different, that are maybe worship artists or graphic designers or other things like that that you wouldn't know. He had some things in common with them as a race car driver. So that second step can be kind of hard, but so it's listening to what they're passionate about and then saying, how can I help? Now that I understand your mission and your goals, how can I help? In order to ask that, you have to know how. You need to know of a couple of ways that you think that you can help and be able to clearly communicate those things to other people. And that can
I,
be really hard to do.
I love that. And I mean, I think, I think that's a great, next step for, uh, over in the corner of my office, a bird was just trying to fly into my office very, aggressively, but, sorry, he just kept coming at it. But, um,
I heard it. Yeah.
I know. Back to what we are talking about. No, I think like that's obviously a great next step. Is that second point is like, what do I have to offer? And I think everybody listening right
Mm,
now should start a list on their phone, a note on their phone of like what. And I remember when you asked me that when I was coming onto your podcast, it was like, man, I know I like to write, I like to podcast, but like, what do I have to offer? And it's not a question. Maybe all of us ask all the time naturally.
mhm,
I think the first question a lot of us ask is, what do I need? Like,
mhm,
what do I need? So I think just taking the time, before if you're listening to this in your car, just whenever you get to where you're going, don't do it while you're driving. Take out a note on your phone and just start a list of just a few things that stand out of like, this is what I have to offer people. Whether it's even, man, I've got great friendships in my life. Like I've got some just basic tips and advice of how to maximize your
mhm.
friendships or whatever the case is. So I think that's great advice. What's step three?
Yeah, so you got to it actually, but a lot of times we reverse it and we do step three before two, and it's, hey, how can you help? I
Yeah.
have these gaps in my experience that I'm not very good at this. Are you able to help me? In those, what suggestions might you have? Which sounds easier, but then that too, a lot of times we might assume what we need instead of actually taking a deep dive and doing a gap analysis of the things that we're doing to know like what is actually worth my time and what should I outsource
Right.
or ask other people for assistance of. So I think it is important to do number two before you do number three so that you know the things that you're both competent in and enjoy doing. Well, those are the things that you have to offer, and those are the things that are just going to be natural and easy for you to do.
Right.
And all the other things might be your gaps, and those are the things to ask for help for. So
It's good.
those are the three questions we ask. So like, what are you passionate about? How can you help? And how can you help me?
That's awesome. I feel like when I walked away from being a guest on your podcast, I felt like even just taking the time to really think of those things kind of propelled me into like recognizing, like, even just being more active on social media. And the reason
Mhm.
I'm being more active on social media is because I want to add value. And there's
Mhm.
things like the podcast, or I'm writing a book, and there's things that I'm really excited about that, like, I want more people to find those things. And so I just want to make sure that I am being a consistent voice in those places. But I think it helped me kind of realize, like, what I'm passionate about at a deep level is like fatherhood, it's marriage, it's
Mhm.
those non-negotiables in my life. And so just realizing, like, that was something I walked away from that with, is like, I know I don't do those things perfect. And, my wife, I think she listens to my podcast, but like, I think, like, if she'd be like, oh yeah, he's not perfect. Like, that's the given in our relationship. And that's the given whenever I teach on these things. But it gave me courage to realize, like, there are things that I'm learning. There are things that I am getting right in this. And like, we're proud of the way that we protect our dinner table. We're proud of the way that
Mhm.
we fight for one-on-one connection with each of our three kids. That we're proud of the way that we really prioritize, like, saying yes to each other when social things come up, and like those fueling friendships. Like, we're proud of ourselves in those things. And so just realizing, like, man, I do have more to give. And then also on the flip side, I remember walking away, man, like, I still don't have somebody, but I don't mind editing, but I just, the time consuming nature of editing for the
Mhm.
podcast is tough. And I think I walked away too going, like, man, that would be great to figure it out. And so maybe there's a listener today. Like, that's the thing. But when you think, I almost want to reverse it on you for a second. Like, when you think of what you have to offer, what is it that jumps out at you of, like, this is Daniel Eccles, this is what I have to offer?
Yeah, I think that I foster those connections for people. Like a lot of the Opportunity Collective, what I've been enjoying about it is I'm starting to see my friends working together. Like a couple of them just published a book and they're
That's awesome.
in the recommendations at the front of the book, they're all writing the recommendations for one another. And I'm just like, wait, I connected them together
So
and now
cool.
they're doing something from that. And so like that's super awesome. Just being able to know and see the giftings and have context for what each person has to offer, I might be able to see that in people before they are able to see that. And I think that that's really hard, especially for listeners that are in your 20s. I think that the hard part about maybe this conversation is like, oh, that's all well and good, but I don't really feel like I have anything to offer.
Hmm.
I just graduated and I've been in four jobs already. And if I'm not happy in this fourth job, I would really love to have a job that has a little bit more purpose. But they don't want me. I don't have something of value to
Hmm.
give. And so I think that I'm just able to see like that's not true for one.
Right.
And you have a lot of valuable experience by the time that you're in your 20s that you just might not know was valuable experience. You talked about it already before, like in asking me, like, how did you know, like, how did you see when you were creative when you were a kid? Well, all of that stuff has been a through line. I haven't changed in the things that I like to do
Yeah.
and that I'm competent in and give me joy since I was a kid. It just maybe looks a more adult than it used to. I'm not building Lincoln Logs. Even though, well, maybe I will be sometime
Yeah.
soon.
I
Who
I
knows?
mean, I'm fully back into Legoland.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Looking forward to it. So that's another thing that I have to offer is I've developed a particular coaching and work assessment that is very focused on helping people unveil their top skills. There are three areas of work that they would most enjoy being in. Not only that they're competent in, but they're competent in and enjoy doing and would be more engaged in doing. And then also, how can you clearly communicate those things to potential employers or just other people that you're wanting to collaborate with and the things that you're wanting to do in your life? So that's something that I've been really enjoying doing with people. It's been really fun.
That's awesome. I want to, at the end of the episode, we'll definitely point in show notes as well to just, your website and some of these tools that you were talking about. But I just want to give you another free for all of just like final address to our audience, young adults that are often, or most of them are in beginning stages of their career, beginning stages of family, pursuing all that kind of stuff. So like what's the last thing you want to share with them today?
Hmm. I guess I just want to reiterate that point though too. Like, don't discount yourself for being young. Like, you have a lot of life experiences. And a lot of those things are way more valuable than you might assume they are, because you're might be caught up comparing yourself to where you think other people are at. And it's just so easy to feel in your 20s like you're behind already. Like, all my friends are already married. All my friends already, they're getting their houses. I get on Instagram and I see that they have like three golden doodles. Like, wow. Uh, like, it's so easy to feel behind.
Yeah.
And this kind of gets into a little bit of my advice to myself that I would give to myself in my 20s. Um, I've been thinking about that a lot lately as I just escaped the 20s. So I
Okay.
turned 30 in October.
So yeah,
And
so this is the question, when you give that advice to that 20-year-old version of you, like what are you
yeah,
telling them?
I've been thinking, I think in the 20s, I was way too focused on building my life instead of living it. Everything was about striving, about building towards a goal, instead of just how can I live in the most joy possible that I can today. Not looking forward to that vacation, not looking forward to graduation, not looking forward to getting married. Um, all those things are really good, but how can I set my life up today to just be grateful and thankful and see like the joy, and have like purpose in my everyday life. So
Man, I love that. You don't know how much that syncs up with just my life and my heart and a lot of the motivation behind everything that I'm doing. I mean, the book that I'm writing is called Everyday Adventure, and it's really about
yeah.
living every day to the fullest. And so like I resonate with that. I think that's a message that every young adult needs to hear and hear from multiple people, multiple sources, and over again, that like today matters. And I just love that you're living that. Like, I know you're looking back retrospectively at your 20s, what do you wish? But I think, the cool thing is how God's bringing you to that spot. And, I think that's really special. And I think what you are offering is valuable. What your message is important. And, we need more collaboration in this world. So, man, I appreciate you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Well, you are a great example of that. I know I've seen you post just getting joy out of laundry. That might be a mess in in the house and stuff right now.
I
So
have to remind myself
definitely.
that,
Yeah. It's really hard. I mean, it's still something that I have to always battle. Even just now in this season, I might be tempted sometimes to think of my career in like 5 years, or and then start become unhappy with where I'm at. But if I just look at my day to day, um, I get to live out every day how I would love to live it out. Today, I couldn't ask for a better setup for today, than what I had. So I'm exactly where I want to be.
Awesome. Well, I love it. I love it so much. But how can we keep up with you? Where can we just find some of your best stuff? I know you write the podcast. So where do we go to find everything Daniel Eccles?
Probably DanielEccles.com is the easiest. So there will be links to the podcast on there, and to the writings are on there, as well as some of my career coaching stuff. So that skills at work assessment and coaching experience is available on there as well. Um, yeah, or if you just want a message and say what's up, Instagram DJ Eccles. I'm not an actual DJ. That's my middle name is James.
A whole
So
nother skill
there's
that
a
you're
lot of
not telling us
confusion.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, a whole other, yeah. I do bar mitzvahs.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. No, that's awesome. I will definitely link all that, but DanielEccles.com, DJ Eccles on Instagram. Matt, just again, thanks for being who you are. Thanks for just sharing your light with people. And thanks for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.